Hey guys, please excuse the mess. I've just moved into this place. There's still a lot to do, and it took a lot to get it this tidy. That's also why I've been quite quiet recently. But now I've got a few minutes to sit down and talk about this. I want to put my speculation, my thoughts onto the recent attacks on Syria. Attacks which, from the UK standpoint, are illegal. I'll get into why at the end of this video. I don't know enough about French politics, so I can't comment on Macron's reasoning or his motives behind anything. Trump is incredibly easy to predict what he's going to do. It's going to be whatever Fox News tells him to do. He certainly doesn't care about children. But I have to say, before I get into where I think Theresa May was motivated, I have to say that the line that we draw of chemical weapons I find distastefully ingenuine. Sort of a mockery, really. It's okay to throw a phosphorus grenade at a child, but you can't use chemical weapons, because that's where we draw the line. It's okay to starve people to death, for a woman to be gang raped and bludgeoned to death, as long as no chemical weapons are involved, because only when chemical weapons are involved will we actually stand up and take note. For the most part, UK politicians, certainly the Tories and the Conservatives, don't care about what's going on in Yemen, but they seem to stand up and take note when the Assad regime supposedly use a chemical weapon. Where do we draw the line with chemical weapons? Because everything is chemical when you break it down. So is the American government using chemical attacks on its own people because Flint, Michigan still hasn't got clean drinkable water? It's an absurd line to use, and it's used as a get out of jail free card, in my opinion. But back to the topic at hand here with Syria. Now, I have to say that I'm not convinced that the Assad regime used chemical weapons at this point. I know they have done before, but it's like taking part in a marathon, and the last 50 yards you decide that you're going to stop running and get in a car. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's going to do more damage than good. So I struggle to believe someone could be so arrogant and thick as to think that they could just do it and get away with it. Again, having said that, they've done it an estimated 50 times. I read somewhere, I can't remember where, so that number could be completely wrong, but certainly the Assad regime have used chemical warfare in the past, so maybe they did, maybe they didn't. This leads on to another issue I have with it. The green light was set to go in and investigate. We would have known beyond any shadow of a doubt if Assad had used chemical weapons. But a few hours before the investigative team were able to go in, Theresa May, Donald Trump and Macron bombed the place. Which means we are never going to have a conclusive answer. We're never going to have conclusive evidence to say, yes, he did, no, he didn't. We're never going to know that because Theresa May couldn't wait a few hours and bombed the place. In situations like this, a few hours won't really make a lot of difference. But it does mean that Theresa May has set forward a massive, dangerous president in this country. Now, I'm focusing mainly on Theresa May in this video because, again, I don't know enough about French politics, and Trump is painfully painfully easy to predict and to manipulate as long as you have the correct platform, that being Fox News and Fox and Friends. But Theresa May's husband and his company owns significant shares in the company that produce missiles that were used in bombing Syria. Now, I've seen two different numbers. I've seen 8 point something and 6 point something. So take it at the lowest end. Theresa May's husband from that one bombing made £6 million. That is why she ordered the strike. It's not because of the children. If she cared about the children, she'd be feeding children in this country. She would be doing something about Yemen. She would have put in sanctions on Syria, because sanctions do work when they're actually enforced. She would have waited a few hours and called in Parliament, the House of Commons, to actually discuss this. But she didn't. She launched that attack because it would have made her husband 6 million at least. That's why she did it. The dangerous precedent that has sent is, in a democracy, we now have a woman who is acting as a dictator. She didn't wait for Parliament. She didn't wait to hear both sides of the argument. She didn't wait for the investigative team to come back with evidence or to even get there first. She acted as a dictator. This is a massive worry that should concern everyone, especially when you take into consideration that Tories and the Conservatives are actively stripping away human rights. They're actively trying to make voting much more difficult in heavy Labour or anti-conservative areas. One of the things that they've tried to impose is you will need your either a birth certificate, either you'll need a passport or a driver's license to actually turn up and vote. Well, not everyone can have that on them when they find time to vote. People have to have, jobs. And we don't get days off every time there's a vote on. Certainly I'm going to be working on May the 3rd. So it's just one of those little things that they're doing to take away human rights. And the fact that Theresa May is coming out and saying that we had to do this to defend the children, no, that's not why she did it. Yes, something does need to be done, but this was not the way to do it. But on to why this was an illegal action. Now, regardless of where you stand with what we did in Iraq, the numbers speak for themselves. Millions of innocent people slaughtered needlessly. We went into Iraq because Tony Blair was screaming that there were WMDs, there were weapons of mass destruction. The entire world, barring America and Bush, said no, there aren't. We've sent inspectors, they couldn't find anything, there's no evidence to suggest this. But as a country, we said no, there are WMDs and we are going in there because we have to. We have that moral responsibility. So we went in and we found nothing. And it was a shit show. And because of that, essentially we have two legitimate reasons why we can send a missile to another country. The first is we are in imminent threat. We are imminent danger. It's very late. Getting my words out is very difficult, and I'm determined to do this in one take. So by that, there would have to be a missile in the air coming towards us. That's the only legitimate reason we could have for sending one back. That's it. The second one would be a massive violation of human rights forcing us to intervene. Now, yes, you can say that what's happening in Syria is a massive human rights violation. However, Theresa May is stripping away human rights in this country. She's forcing families into poverty. She's just taken away 160 million school dinners from children. So no, that doesn't count at all. And she wouldn't wait a few hours for a team to go in and actually find out what's what. So what we did was an illegal action, and I dread to think what the repercussions will be because of it.